More big news in the world of pro wrestling today. We're talking about it also. As always, I'll put the timestamps in the description down below. We're going to kick things off with a WWE Raw return that has been confirmed. Guys, we are talking about Ric Flair. Yeah, so this is not really shocking to me considering that the WWE draft is going to be happening tonight on WWE Raw. However, PW Insider Elite has reported that WWE Hall of Famers Ric Flair and Teddy Long are set to be on tonight's Raw, and more than likely they're going to be announcing WWE's draft picks. Now, I want to actually take a minute and talk about this because I've seen some people were disappointed in my tweet where I thought perhaps Triple H was going to be reading off the picks. Now, here's the thing. I think it's cool that legends are coming back to WWE and they're doing these draft picks. I think that is a lot better than just Triple H or Stephanie McMahon or Vince McMahon or just one sole person actually announcing every single pick one by one. However, as much as I enjoy the draft and as much as I'm happy that WWE brought back the draft, I'm not necessarily happy with the idea of just random legends making these picks. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, if this is a brand split, who is representing Raw and who is representing SmackDown to make these picks? I like to look at logic. And logically speaking, there is no logic being presented in this situation. Now, for those who claim that I'm nitpicking, I absolutely am. I am definitely nitpicking. However, I think it's really important to address the fact that WWE is in a situation right now where they're going to do a brand split, which historically speaking, every time WWE does a brand split, it eventually gets off track. There's a wild card rule. There's a superstar shakeup. There's weird changes that are being made. Then there's storylines that get basically brought into both shows. And then it causes roster members to be on both shows and abandon the brand split. Now, technically speaking, WWE has been on a brand split in recent months, technically speaking. However, because of the Bloodline storyline and Roman Reigns becoming Universal Undisputed Champion, it's allowed wrestlers who don't belong to SmackDown arrive on SmackDown. And it's allowed wrestlers who have been on SmackDown to be allowed to go on Raw. So the idea that legends are coming and making these picks, it's all fine and dandy, but the problem that I'm having with this is the fact that WWE Draft, in my opinion, should have some sort of authority figure. I am not talking about general managers. I'm not sitting here thinking that general managers should be the star of the show, but we have seen Adam Pearce become a backstage agent who is a higher up in WWE, who does have to answer to someone, but he is put into backstage segments in which they use this as a way to justify why certain matches are being made or why certain things are being done on the show. Why can't they replicate that? Why can't they replicate that? I'm just wondering why you can't have somebody do the same thing, and those are the people who are picking for Raw, people that are picking for SmackDown. Again, as much as I love the draft and as much as I love the concept of legends coming out, it would have been really nice for WWE to explain, one, who's making these picks, and two, why they're making these picks. At the end of the day, some people were picked early, some people were picked late. It would have been really cool to see some sort of analysis as to why somebody's draft stock was impacted. And the reason why I bring this up is because I'm a huge fan of the NFL and the NBA draft. And when I look at the NBA draft, you have analysts who are live on television saying, look, this quarterback or this point guard, they're not getting picked because these teams that are picking right now, they need somebody who's explosive, fast. This is their needs. And then the cool thing with NFL is they have Mel Kiper's top picks. I'm surprised that WWE doesn't have that element to the draft. I'm just saying it could be a very, very big win for WWE to really take a look at what the competitors are doing and follow along. But nonetheless, Ric Flair is back on TV. I'm hoping this is just a one-time thing. I'm not really a big fan of Ric Flair. It's cool that they have him making a pick, but other than that, I'm not really too interested. Speaking of the draft, though, guys, WWE is planning more surprises. And honestly, this is a really interesting thing because WWE is expected to have about 30 picks being made tonight on Raw. Now, the reason why I find this so incredibly intriguing and most importantly, why I am kind of excited about WWE planning more surprises, there was no indication that Alba Fire or Isla Dawn were going to be picked in the WWE draft on SmackDown. There was no indication for sure that Indy Hartwell would get called up to the main roster at the draft Friday on SmackDown. The fact is, WWE reportedly has more surprises planned for today, and it is expected to be more NXT talent, which I think is the right way to bring people up. However, I do want to point out too, just to be completely fair, WWE has a ton of talent on their roster. They have 2 shows, that are their main roster shows. Then they have NXT developmental. WWE announced free agents, which we know Von Wagner is a free agent, and we know Mustafa Ali and Dolph Ziggler are also free agents. I'm curious to see what WWE is going to do in this sense, because with all the surprises being made, you have to wonder if more talent are going to be called down to NXT and how WWE would go about that. Now, listen, I like Mustafa Ali. This guy could be a top star in WWE. I firmly believe that. For some reason, that seems to trigger a lot of people's emotions when I say Mustafa Ali could be a top star. I really do. If you look at his content outside of the WWE as well, he's a hell of a talent. In my opinion, Mustafa Ali could really benefit from going to NXT as well. Not for any other reason than just to allow him the opportunity that Apollo Crews had. Apollo Crews went to NXT. He did some great stories, had some great matches. Now he's going back to the main roster. This is a way that you can actually freshen up these NXT call-ups, because you want to have people get TV time. You want to have people get a push. It's okay to move people to NXT. By the way, WWE has historically done this quite a bit. A lot of people seem to forget that guys like Jinder Mahal actually competed for the NXT championship in like 2012, 2013, whatever it was. So it's not this thing where WWE hasn't done it before. I'm all for it. But WWE planning some big surprises actually excites me. And the reason why it excites me is because we still don't know what's going on with Bray Wyatt. But today we might actually have a little bit of an indication as to maybe something that we can actually expect, because there is some talk about WWE hiring a new writer or assigning a new writer to the Bray Wyatt storyline. So for those who don't know, on the Oh You Didn't Know podcast, which is Road Dogg's podcast, he actually said in one of his recent episodes that they have a new writer specifically for Bray Wyatt. He says we'll see how this all unfolds, but the thing that's really intriguing to me is Bray Wyatt has not been included in the list of people that could be drafted. And again, it kind of falls in line with a lot of the things I was complaining about earlier, in which I said, who's making these picks? Why are people being picked? So when Bray Wyatt doesn't get picked, does WWE acknowledge the fact that Bray Wyatt wasn't picked? Or does he come back to WWE, with this new writer who's going to assign new content for him or whatever it may be? Are they going to assign somebody to Bray Wyatt and then, hey, you know what, we'll just randomly throw him on Raw? Or, hey, we'll randomly throw him on SmackDown? Now, the thing is, if I'm WWE, I look at Bray Wyatt getting a new creative writer as a great thing. That means there's a sign of because there's been so much talk about him possibly leaving or being released or all of these different things. It sounds like all those backstage illness reports could be somewhat accurate. If Bray Wyatt's coming back, move him to Raw. Let's get this World Heavyweight Championship going, right? And I'm not saying you got to put the title on him right away, but if you want some credible names and some credible stories for the World Heavyweight Championship, let's get a more human side of Bray Wyatt going. Let's see what WWE does. In my previous video, we talked about Alexa Bliss. WWE clearly has some big plans. They have some big surprises. I'm all for it. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.